At this point in time, the test has already started. I've done my show and tell questions, all 5 of them, and this is the reversing exercise. If you don't do this correctly and actually fail this part, the rest of the test won't continue, so you'll know pretty quick how you've done. Luckily enough, I didn't find this part any problem. I never did. If you saw my first attempt at reversing, I actually sorted this first time, and I haven't had any problems since. Don't forget you are allowed to shuffle. If you're not far enough to the barrier at the back, get out, have a look, and then move your lorry back a little. Fortunately though, I'd judged it perfectly. I did, however, make use of getting out and having a check before I said to the examiner I'd finished. So because we started the driving straight away, I knew the reversing exercise had gone well, and I had to follow the instructions for the A5036. Now this is quite a busy and fast moving road, so what I didn't want to do is obscure my view, so I held back far enough so I could see properly. The A5036 is a road that I know really well, so this instruction wasn't a problem. This is Switch Island if you didn't know, the end of the M57 and the M58 in Liverpool. I did actually know the examiner, so we started gabbing. But me chatting in the way that I did probably cost me a mark later on in the test. I'll go on to explain this shortly. But this section of the drive, as with most of it to be honest, was quite straightforward. Notice the height restrictions to the left. I was actually surprised that nothing like this was actually tested on my driving test. I was expecting an instruction to turn to be restrictive of either height or weight, or even both, but I suppose different size lorries can be presented for test. I was told to turn left at the traffic lights. And it was on this road that I picked up 2 of my 3 driver faults. I'll go into details in a moment. We've got a residential road with a 20 miles an hour speed limit. And I was asked to pull up on the left in a safe place. So where the road widens, I choose to park. But it actually wasn't a brilliant place. Have a look at the driveway on the left with the dropped curb, the one that the gates are shut. I shouldn't park in front of that. Yet there's another driveway without a dropped curb just beyond the tree. Is there enough room to park between them? Or should I block one or the other? What would you have done? There's always an option of driving further up the road, but I decided to park. And because the gates were closed on the dropped curb, I decided to leave my tail end slightly overhanging, because if there were a problem with either driveway, I would rather move forward rather than trying to reverse, especially in a big truck. I was curious exactly how much space there is, so I went down again to check it out. Right, so let's have a little look to see exactly how long this space is. Now, I'm going to first of all position myself where I was parked up to, which is the front of this driveway, and luckily enough it's exactly in line with that first line over there. So let's just have a little look at the 2 lines that I'm going to be talking about. As a hazard line is 4 metres, a space is 2 metres, and the other hazard line is another 4, that's 10, which is the length of my truck. And now let's have a little look to see just how much space we've got to the other driveway. So that's the second line, And as you can see, my lorry was parked probably this much over the driveway. So back to the test. If you're faced with this scenario, block the raised curb. However, if this was your ADI Part 2 for your driving instructor exam, this would also give you a driver fault. But as I move away, my examiner actually gave me another fault for checking my blind spot a little late. It was explained I checked over my shoulder as I started to move. Let me explain. I've learnt over the years of doing instructor training to use my peripheral vision to a high level, so I can sort of like keep an eye on things around, and I do transfer that over to my driving. Now, just going back to my first standards check I ever had when the new format of the standards check came out, I got marked down a couple of points, and one of the points was my examiner says I wasn't checking round over my shoulder properly, and this was the other mistake that I actually got on my lorry test. It should be marked, so nothing against the examiner, but it's actually not a fault in the way that I do it. I'll explain. What I've learned to do over the years is lean and look sideways as well. Just for example, the big blind spot in my car is from 90 degrees out to the side, out to the furthest point that I can see in my right mirror, and I can actually see the start of the Ford Focus back there, or the Focus C-Max back there. So what I actually do when I'm checking is I lean forward, look as far as I can in my mirror, but I'm also looking sideways, so I can see the back of the Ford Focus in the mirror, and I can also see it peripherally out to the side. So there are occasions where I probably check without actually turning around and looking over my shoulder, and the examiner did mark me down for this. I'm not saying that you should do this. You should always have a proper check all the way around over your shoulder, but it is a skill that I've developed over the years, and it's the second time that it's cost me a mark, but I'm not really counting. I do move away safely, but make sure you do have a proper move of this shoulder round and across to check all that area thoroughly. Let's crack on. This road, don't forget, is a 20 limit, and it often feels slow driving down here at 20, but I actually felt less pressured from cars behind driving a wagon rather than my driving school car. The next instruction I was given was that we were going to be turning right at the next set of lights. And I was also added the information that we will need the right lane of the two. I knew where we were going. When I turn in formation like this, I'm always aware of lorries, so it was an easy job for me to be aware of other people. You can now see why the examiner asked me to get into lane 2. We were following the road ahead. I was now asked to follow the signs for the University Hospital Aintree. Again, really straightforward. This is like my backyard. Hospital signs are easy to follow because they're red. They stand out well. With this junction, you've got to be careful of signalling. How would you have done that? Would you have put a signal on at the speed that I was going? The next instruction was to follow the signs for Norris Green. Just a little tip about following signs. You may know the way to Norris Green, but make sure you try and follow which way the signs tell you to go. I've found that people's impatience at pulling out in front of a lorry is similar to that of a driving school car. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you'll probably be familiar with this road. Unlike the learner test, there's no sat-nav to follow, and my examiner informed me that was the end of the independent drive. We were also going to be turning left at the next set of lights. I must admit, some things I have found much easier in a lorry, and junctions like this you can see over the top of the hedges. If I was in my car, the view would have been restricted. As you can see, you will be asked to park in a number of times, and on this occasion I was asked to park in specifically by the big rocks on the left. I have noticed, however, the difficulties of moving off. You've got no interior mirror, your view is restricted, and your lorry isn't as quick as a car. As always though, don't inconvenience anyone, even if that means waiting for a while. As with all of the route, I was really familiar with this. In fact, I don't think there would have been many roads in Liverpool and the surrounding areas that I wouldn't have known. Another important point here for me, because I use this road to run on as well. This path is really narrow and overgrown. Don't forget your lorry's mirrors can overhang the pavement. Give pedestrians extra space. Down at the traffic lights I was asked to turn right. As you can see, I was blessed with some nice weather on my driving test. The previous couple of days training have been flooded and it was awkward. The distance you can splash a pedestrian from whilst driving through a puddle in a lorry surprised me. This next section of road was really quiet. Again, it's a road you may be familiar with, but a little further up my examiner spotted a parked vehicle on the left and asked me to park in. This is called moving off on an angle, and you're instructed to leave yourself enough room to move off again, and my examiner told me exactly how far forward he wanted me, up just level with this tree. Again, I was told to drive on when I was ready. I also had to be quite patient. This was quite a long wait before I found a suitable gap. Don't let this panic you. You're doing the correct thing in this scenario. But after I did start to move, I was helped out by another road user. Nice one, buddy. Again, this section was really simple. It was a Thursday afternoon and the traffic, as you've seen, has been relatively light. Although it's fairly faint, you can just about make out my speed in the bottom of the screen. I did actually think a few times on my test, am I going too slow? Here, I'm obviously near the 30 limit, but there are a few faster sections further up, which I thought I'd maybe pick up a mark. It is really important though, even though it may seem easy, to keep your wits about you. Any of these cars could have moved off, or someone could have come out from that junction. Keep concentrating. At the roundabout, I was asked to turn left. But first of all, I had to deal with the bus that was parked in, so I chose lane 2 safely. And as I was approaching the bus, but just after the junction, I put a left signal on, about now. And the bus driver saw it, recognised, and stopped his move away. Thank you. The roundabout was easy enough to deal with. And if I remember, myself and the examiner were talking about classic cars at this point. But remember, this gabbing did get me another mark later on. In any case, I was asked to turn left at the traffic lights. And at this junction I was particularly aware of cyclists catching me up on the left. If you also have a look at the corner that I'm turning round, It's quite narrow. In a car, this wouldn't be an issue, but this was actually quite a tight one. My mind did go back to the first mistake I made on the first day, where I touched my left wheels against a curb. I took my time, kept on checking, and nailed it. Another thing that did surprise me about driving a lorry was the amount the bumps and the poor road surface do affect you. Although you've got a nice air cushioned seat, you can feel everything. Actually, a fair bit more than you could do in my car. I was, however, doing my best to keep things moving and keep the journey as smooth as I can for the examiner. I always think that shows good expertise. When I got told we were turning right at the lights, again I was familiar with the junction, but just look at its layout, it's quite wide. You could see there were 3 lanes well before you got there. Pick the left of the 2 if you're not overtaken. But have a look at the driver to the right hand side. What were they doing? It did cross my mind whether they'd stopped there because they'd seen an ambulance coming, without the sirens on, but it wasn't the case. This is the A580, or the East Lancs Road, the one that connects Liverpool and Manchester. And vehicles at this point always jostle for position, and it's usually the people trying to get in to take the slip road. So the 2 vehicles that are on my right didn't surprise me. My first proper experience of must get in front syndrome whilst I was driving the lorry. Don't forget, I'm used to it with a driving school car though. This next section of road is a 50 limit. Have a quick look at my speedo, it never gets past 40. At the traffic lights, I've been asked to turn left. Were we going back to that roundabout where I clipped the corner? No, we weren't. The examiner asked me to turn left at these traffic lights. And this was where I picked up my final driver fault. Apparently, I didn't do a swing out check before I turned left. I can't remember whether I did or didn't, but if I didn't, it was probably because I was gabbing. So if your examiners are quiet whilst you're doing your driving test, you can hopefully now understand the reason. Because if they're talking to you, your concentration might drop. Now, I can't blame the examiner for this. To be honest, it was probably me gabbing more than him. Again, the speed bumps surprise me how slow you've got to go when you're driving a lorry. I was asked to take the second road on the right. Again, I knew this road. Broad lane. I honestly thought I'd pick up a driver fault for hesitancy at this particular junction. Although I've got 10 metres worth of lorry to get round this right turn, I think I probably could have gone. But this vehicle came out of its junction and kept really slow. If you're ever in doubt, don't bother. Remember, means don't. The examiner was okay with this also. This road produced a few meeting situations, but I dealt with them easily enough. Where you see shops, there's always a potential for higher risk. The crossing was okay, but I see the bus early and hold back and give it room to turn. Appreciate the vehicles that need more space. It's easy when you're driving one. But there's still other things to deal with. Any of those cars on the left could have been reversing. All good. Another meeting situation dispatched easily enough. But then I had to deal with potentially the JCB reversing out. That was all fine. At the roundabout, we'll turn left. Okay, no problems. But this was another scenario where I thought possibly I'd pick up a minor mark for hesitancy. We had to wait for quite a long time for my gap, so all I did, I verbalised what I was thinking and actually told the examiner which car was the last one I was waiting for. Gaps at roundabouts should be taken without inconveniencing anyone coming from the right hand side. At the traffic lights I was asked to turn left. More parked cars and more meeting situations to deal with, but there's a little tricky situation that happens now. The second vehicle from the opposite side doesn't give me room to clear, so I decide to stop and let them clear. It's a decision that I wouldn't have had to have taken if I was driving my car. At the end of the road, we'll turn right. Again, take care that when you're emerging, you don't inconvenience people. Back down Broad Lane. I wonder where we're going next. First of all, I got asked to pull up on the left, just before we get to the minibus. The examiner did say, don't worry about the driveway. Again, drive on when you're ready. At the end of the road, we'll turn right. This section of road again caused me very few problems. There weren't many parked vehicles and there was nothing coming the opposite way. I was told to take the next road on the right, and this takes us through Kirkby town centre. This might be a little bit more of a problem. However, for now, it seems again pretty clear. Certain sections of this test, I was pretty lucky. How was your test? Was it this quiet? And what time of day did you take it? So here's Kirkby town centre. And although it can be quite busy at times, it was actually pretty quiet, no major problems again. I got told to turn left at the roundabout, again another familiar one to me. Easy enough. Now I get a little sneaky feeling of where we're going. I think we're going back to the test centre, so I've already thought that we're going to be turning right at the roundabout coming up. And it was about here that the examiner confirmed my thought. We were turning right at the roundabout, and I also got told that it was the third exit. But again, I know this one. When people realise they're on the way back to the test centre, often concentration can stop, or even lapse. Keep concentrating all the way through to the very end. After a recent video I posted on this particular section of this M57 motorway, it was interesting to see me move across at the point that I did, and then vehicles still undertake me. And yet we're following the signs for Ormskirk A59, so we need lane 3. So just to answer the people who said I got in too early on the previous video, we'll have a look at this. This is a driving test. I've positioned out in lane 3 early. Vehicles still do undertake me on this left-hand side, and it's totally fine. As I was verbalising what I was doing again, the examiner said I would actually do exactly the same. So we haven't got long before I arrived back at the test centre. If you didn't know already, I passed, and yes, we only got 3 driver faults. Hopefully I've been able to explain them and help you possibly with your test if you're due to take it. I think there is a little bit of a fear of driving big lorries. Don't be scared of it. If you've ever thought about it and you're thinking about it as a potential career, give it a go. Just think on how many lorry drivers this country needs at this point in time. You could be doing your little bit to help out. I'm also going to be doing my bit. I'm not going to be changing careers, no, I'm not going to be a full-time lorry driver, but I am going to use my licence. I'm also going to get my Class 1. I'd just like to thank everyone for tuning in to this series. There's going to be more to come as well. So if you haven't done already, to press that subscribe button would be a massive help. And of course, if you can, like the video. Also in the comments, let me know what you would like to see me learn to do next. Shall I go on the buses? Shall I do my race car licence? Or should I do something different? Hope to see you soon. Take care and give a lorry a go.